The silence of space gave way to the soft hum of the Starseeker's engines as Jack Miller stared out the viewport at the blue-green moon growing larger in the distance. After 3 months in cryosleep, he felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. This was what he had trained for, the chance to be the first human to study plant life on a new world. Preparing for atmospheric entry in 5 minutes, announced the ship's A. "Please secure yourself, Dr. Miller." Jack strapped himself into the pilot's seat. At 28, he was young for such an important mission, but his work on adapting Earth plants to alien environments had caught the attention of the United Earth Space Agency. While other scientists sought fame through discovering new energy sources or weapons, Jack had always been drawn to the quiet miracle of plants. "This is it," he whispered to himself as he watched the moon's atmosphere begin to envelop the ship. The gas giant that the moon orbited filled half the sky, its swirling orange and red bands creating a stunning backdrop. The first tremors of turbulence were mild, just as expected. Jack checked the readouts on his console. Everything looked normal. Then, without warning, the ship jolted violently. "Warning, unexpected atmospheric density variation detected," the AI announced, adjusting entry trajectory. The ship shuddered again, harder this time. Warning lights flashed across the console. Critical system failure. Emergency landing protocols engaged. Jack gripped the armrests as the ship plummeted through the atmosphere. The viewport showed only fire now as friction heated the outer hull. His training kicked in, and he manually overrode several systems, trying to maintain some control of their descent. The Starseeker broke through the cloud layer, revealing a vast forest of enormous trees below. Jack had seconds to make a decision. He spotted a small clearing and guided the failing ship toward it. The impact threw him against his restraints. Metal screeched and tore. Emergency foam deployed around him just before darkness took him. When Jack opened his eyes, sunlight filtered through a cracked viewport. His head throbbed, but a quick self-assessment revealed no serious injuries. The emergency systems had done their job. He unstrapped himself and made his way through the tilted cabin to the supply storage. Many containers had burst open, their contents scattered across the floor. The communication system sparked weakly. "Status report," Jack said. The AI's voice came through, broken and distorted. "Life support ... functional. Communications ... damaged. Emergency beacon ... active. Calculating rescue timeline. Approximately 92 Earth days. 3 months. Jack would need to survive on this alien world for 3 months before help could arrive. He gathered what supplies he could salvage: a portable shelter, food rations, water purifiers, his research equipment, and most importantly, his plant analysis kit. The universal translator device was intact, which would be essential if he encountered any intelligent life. The ship's main door was jammed, but Jack managed to force open an emergency exit. Fresh air rushed in, carrying unfamiliar but pleasant scents. He took a cautious breath. The UESA probes had confirmed the atmosphere was safe for humans, but experiencing it firsthand was different. Jack climbed out of the ship and stood on alien soil for the first time. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth's, making him feel strangely buoyant. The clearing where he'd crashed was surrounded by trees that dwarfed even Earth's redwoods. Their trunks were a deep purple with silvery leaves that seemed to shimmer with their own light. "Bioluminescent plant life," Jack muttered, already reaching for his sample kit. Incredible. For several hours, he set up his camp and collected samples from nearby plants. The forest was teeming with life forms that defied Earth classifications. Floating seed pods drifted through the air. Small creatures similar to Earth. Insects, but with 6 wings instead of 4, darted among the flowers. As the day progressed, Jack ventured farther from his ship. He recorded everything in his datapad, taking samples and making notes. This would be the most comprehensive study of alien botany in human history, crash landing or not. The sun was beginning to set when Jack noticed something unusual on one of the massive trees about half a kilometer from his camp. There were patterns in the bark that seemed too regular to be natural. As he moved closer, he realized with a shock that they were structures dwellings built into the living trees. "Intelligent life," he whispered, his heart racing. Jack approached, cautiously, using the thick underbrush for cover. The structures were elegant, flowing with the natural curves of the trees rather than cutting into them. Bridges of what looked like woven plant material connected the tree dwellings, and he saw them. Humanoid figures moved along the bridges and platforms. From his distance, they appeared female in form, with slender builds and graceful movements. Their skin ranged in colors from pale blue to soft purple and gentle green, all with a pearlescent quality that caught the fading sunlight. Jack watched, mesmerized. This was beyond anything humanity had discovered. True intelligent alien life, and they seemed to live in harmony with their environment in a way humans had struggled to achieve. He debated his options. Protocol said he should observe from a distance, document everything, and wait for the rescue team. But 3 months was a long time, and if these beings discovered him anyway, first contact could go badly. Better to approach openly, he decided. Show peaceful intentions. Jack returned to his camp, gathered some supplies, including the universal translator, and prepared himself. He selected several earth plant specimens as gifts, simple seeds and flowers that posed no ecological threat, but might demonstrate his peaceful intentions and shared interest in plant life. As dusk settled over the forest, Jack approached the tree settlement. He moved slowly, hands visible, trying to appear as non-threatening as possible. He had barely reached the base of the nearest tree when movement surrounded him. A dozen of the alien beings emerged from the underbrush, moving with surprising speed. And silence. Up close, Jack could see their features more clearly. They were indeed female in appearance, with large, expressive eyes in colors ranging from silver to gold. Their ears were slightly pointed, and some had markings on their faces that might have been decorative or natural. They surrounded him, keeping a cautious distance. None appeared to be armed, but several held tools that could serve as weapons. If needed, Jack slowly raised his hands, palms forward in the universal gesture of peace. He placed his gifts on the ground before him. "Hello," he said, knowing they wouldn't understand his words, but hoping his tone would convey his peaceful intentions. "I come as a friend." The universal translator at his belt hummed to life, beginning its work of analyzing their language. The aliens watched him with expressions of wonder and caution. One stepped forward taller than the others, with azure skin and elaborate markings on her arms. She spoke, her voice melodic and unlike any human language Jack had heard. The aliens exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from caution to curiosity. They began to circle closer, examining Jack with unconcealed fascination. Jack Miller, botanist from Earth, stood still as the alien women approached, their eyes wide with discovery. Humanity's first contact had begun. The azure-skinned alien reached out a slender hand toward Jack, stopping just short of touching him. Her eyes, golden with vertical pupils like a cat's, studied every detail of his face. She spoke again, her voice rising at the end as if asking a question. Jack pointed to himself. "Jack," he said clearly, "my name is Jack Miller." The alien tilted her head, then mimicked his gesture, pointing to herself. "Vila," she said. Jack smiled and nodded. "Vila," he repeated. This simple exchange seemed to break the tension. The aliens moved closer, their whispers creating a musical backdrop as they examined Jack with undisguised curiosity. One reached out to touch his arm, pulling back with a soft gasp when she felt his skin. The universal translator at Jack's belt continued to process their language, its small screen showing increasing comprehension percentages. It would take time to fully decode their speech, but it was already making connections. Vela gestured toward the massive tree structures, then back to Jack. Her meaning was clear even without words. An invitation. Jack nodded and gathered his gifts. From the ground, he followed as the group led him toward the base of the largest tree. Up close, the scale was even more impressive. The trunk was wider than his crashed ship, rising hundreds of meters into the sky. Spiraling around it was a living staircase, formed by the tree's own growth and enhanced with woven platforms. The climb was long, but not difficult in the lighter gravity. Jack noticed that the aliens moved with natural grace, clearly evolved for this environment. As they ascended, he saw that the tree settlement was far larger than he'd first thought. Dozens of dwellings nestled among the branches, connected by swinging bridges and platforms. The aliens guided him to a large platform near the trunk. Several other aliens gathered, drawn by the commotion of his arrival. They whispered and pointed, keeping a respectful distance, but clearly fascinated. Vela spoke to the gathered crowd, gesturing toward Jack. He recognized his name among her musical words. The translator was now at 15% comprehension, picking up basic sentence structures and common words. A smaller alien with purple skin approached. Unlike the others, who wore simple garments of woven plant material, this one had additional items that looked like tools or instruments hanging from a belt. She spoke rapidly to Vela, who nodded and turned to Jack. Vela pointed to the purple-skinned alien. "Lyra," she said. Lyra stepped forward, her silver eyes wide with scientific curiosity. She pointed to Jack's translator device and made a questioning sound. Jack held up the device and slowly demonstrated how it worked, speaking into it and showing her the screen. Lyra's eyes lit up with understanding. She said something to Vela, who nodded with apparent approval. The translator chimed softly. "Basic communication matrix established," it announced. "Limited translation available." Jack spoke clearly, knowing the device would attempt to convert his words. "I come in peace. My ship crashed. I am a scientist studying plants." The translator produced a series of musical tones and clicks. The aliens listened intently, their expressions shifting from confusion to surprise. Lyra responded, and the translator converted her words with many gaps. "You different from us. Where you come?" Jack pointed upward. "From Earth, another world very far away." This caused a stir among the gathered aliens. They conferred among themselves, their voices rising in what sounded like excitement or concern. Vela raised her hand, and the others fell silent. She spoke again, and the translator managed. "You stay with us until help comes." Jack nodded gratefully. "Thank you." As night fell, the tree settlement transformed. Bioluminescent plants placed in woven containers provided gentle light. The aliens prepared a meal, offering Jack fruits and what appeared to be cooked roots. He scanned them with his portable analyzer before eating, confirming they were safe for human consumption. The food was strange but pleasant, with flavors that reminded him of earth mangoes and sweet potatoes. As they ate, Jack noticed that the aliens watched his every move, particularly fascinated by his hands and the way he used them. After the meal, Lyra approached with several other aliens who wore similar tool belts. She spoke, and the translator now captured more words. "We are knowledge seekers. We wish study you if permitted." Jack understood their scientific curiosity. "I am also a knowledge seeker. We can learn from each other." This answer seemed to please them. Lyra smiled, revealing teeth that were pearly white and slightly pointed. She gestured to his clothing. and said something the translator couldn't process. Vila intervened, speaking at length. The translator caught fragments. Tomorrow. Rest now. New one needs sleep. They showed Jack to a small but comfortable dwelling, built into a broad branch of the tree. Inside was a bed-like structure filled with soft, fragrant leaves. There was a water basin and what appeared to be simple facilities. Jack was impressed by the elegant functionality of everything. Left alone, Jack recorded his observations in his datapad. Day 1 of contact with intelligent alien species. They call themselves. He paused, realizing he didn't yet know their species name. They appear to be a single-gender society, at least from what I can observe. All individuals. I've encountered present as female in human terms. He continued documenting his observations until exhaustion overcame him. Despite the strangeness of his situation, Jack slept soundly, lulled by the gentle movements of the massive tree in the night breeze. Morning brought new discoveries. Jack awoke to find fresh fruit and water left outside his dwelling. As he ate, he noticed several young aliens watching him from a nearby platform, giggling and hiding when he looked their way. Lyra arrived shortly after, accompanied by her team of knowledge seekers. The translator had continued its work overnight and now offered improved, though still basic, translations. Good day cycle, Jack Miller, Lyra said through the translator. We wish to begin learning exchange. Jack smiled. I'm ready. What would you like to know first? Lyra's team spread out equipment that looked like scientific instruments. You are different shape from us. We are Liriani, one form only. You are I am human, Jack explained. Humans have 2 forms, male and female. This caused great excitement among the Liriani scientists. They conferred rapidly, the translator struggling to keep up with their technical terms. Lyra turned back to Jack. You are male form? We have stories of other beings. Long ago. 2 forms, like you say, Jack nodded. Yes, I am male. The other human form is female, more similar to your appearance. The Liriani seemed fascinated by this concept. Lyra gestured to Jack's clothing. These coverings? Special purpose? For protection and privacy, Jack explained. Humans cover their bodies. The Liriani exchanged confused glances. Lyra's head tilted in a now familiar expression of curiosity. Privacy? This word, not translate well. Jack struggled to explain the concept. Humans keep certain parts of their bodies hidden from others. Lyra nodded slowly, though it was clear the concept was foreign to her. We wear for function only. Temperature, tools, status. As the morning progressed, Jack realized that fundamental differences in their societies were leading to cultural misunderstandings that the translator couldn't fully bridge. The concept of gender, privacy, and even personal space seemed to be very different for the Liriani. What he didn't yet realize was just how significant these misunderstandings would soon become. The next few days fell into a pattern. Each morning, Lyra and her team would arrive at Jack's dwelling to continue their exchange of knowledge. Jack taught them about Earth, humans, and plant life from his world. The Liriani shared information about their society, their connection to the massive trees, and their history. The universal translator improved daily, now capturing about 60% of their language. Jack learned that the Liriani reproduced asexually, each adult able to produce a single offspring once during their lifetime through a process they called the blossoming. This explained their single-gender nature and their fascination with human reproduction. On the 5th day, Vela invited Jack to a gathering in the central platform of the tree settlement. It is welcome ceremony, she explained through the translator, for honored visitor from the stars. Jack spent the afternoon preparing. He organized his notes, and selected several plant specimens from Earth to present as gifts. He also cleaned his uniform as best he could with limited supplies. As dusk approached, Lyra came to escort him to the ceremony. She wore decorative patterns painted on her purple skin and additional ornaments in her silver hair. "You look nice," Jack said. Lyra's translator converted his words, and she smiled. "It is ceremony marking. Shows respect for gathering." She looked at his cleaned uniform with curiosity. "Your covering same always. No ceremony marking?" "I only have what I was wearing when I crashed," Jack explained. "Humans usually have different clothes for special occasions." Lyra nodded thoughtfully. "Interesting. Come now, I'll wait for you." The central platform had been transformed. Bioluminescent plants of all colors created a magical glow. Dozens of Lyriani had gathered, each with decorative markings on their skin. In the center stood a large table made from a cross-section of a fallen tree, covered with food and drink. Vila greeted him at the edge of the platform. Her azure skin was adorned with complex swirling patterns that glowed faintly in the dim light. "Jack Miller of Earth," she said formally, "we welcome you to share food, knowledge, and community with the Lyriani." The translator conveyed his response. "I am honored by your welcome and generosity. I bring gifts from my world to yours." Jack presented his carefully preserved plant specimens. Vala accepted them with obvious delight, showing them to the gathered crowd. The Lyriani murmured appreciatively. "Now we feast," Vila announced. The gathering was unlike anything Jack had experienced. The Lyriani were naturally graceful and expressive. They sang songs with their musical voices and performed dances that seemed to mimic the movements of plants in the wind. Jack was reminded of how deeply connected they were to their forest world. The food was more varied than what he had been offered before, with sweet fruits, savory cooked roots, and a fermented drink that tasted similar to mead. Jack enjoyed everything cautiously, checking each new item with his analyzer. As the night progressed, more Lyriani approached Jack, curious about the visitor from the stars. The translator worked overtime, facilitating dozens of brief conversations. Jack found himself surrounded by a group of younger Lyriani who asked endless questions about Earth. "Do all humans have fur on face like you?" one asked, pointing to his 5-day stubble. "Only adult males," Jack explained, rubbing his growing beard. "And we call it hair, not fur." This caused much discussion among them. Another asked why some coverings tight, some loose. She pointed to his uniform pants, and then his looser shirt. "Different clothes have different purposes," Jack said. "Some for movement, some for protection, some for comfort." Lyra, who had been monitoring these exchanges, moved closer with several members of her scientific team. "We have question," she said. "For science understanding." Jack nodded. "Of course." "Your coverings, how attached to body? Permanent or temporary connection?" Lyra asked. Jack laughed, then explained, "Not attached. They're separate from my body. See?" He rolled up his sleeve to show his arm, then rolled it back down. This simple demonstration caused great excitement among Lyra's team. They conferred rapidly in their language, too fast and technical for the translator to process. Lyra turned back to Jack. "We not understand. If not part of body, what purpose exactly?" "Protection, temperature control, and privacy, as I mentioned before," Jack said. He was finding it difficult to explain concepts that humans took for granted. "Privacy concepts still unclear," Lyra admitted. "May we examine coverings closer? For science record?" Jack hesitated, but saw no reason to refuse what seemed like an innocent scientific request. "Sure, you can look at my sleeve more closely." Lyra and her team gathered around him. One reached out and touched his shirt sleeve, feeling the fabric. Another examined the seams with a small instrument. They were completely focused, like scientists studying a new species. Then, without warning, one of them tugged at his shirt collar, apparently trying to see how the garment was constructed. The sudden movement startled Jack, who stepped back and bumped into another Liriani behind him. "Please ask before," he began, but was interrupted as several eager scientists moved forward at once. What happened next occurred so quickly that Jack had no time to react. One Liriani pulled at his shirt to examine it, while another tugged at a sleeve. The fabric, already weakened from the crash and days of wear, tore with a loud rip. This seemed to confirm their theory that the coverings were separate items, not part of his body. Taking this as permission to continue their examination, several Liriani began pulling at different parts of his clothing. His shirt was pulled up and over his head before he could protest. The sudden exposure of his chest caused gasps and excited chatter among the gathered aliens. "Wait," Jack tried to say, but in the excitement, the translator's voice was drowned out. Lyra, caught up in the scientific discovery, pointed to his pants. "These separate also? Different texture." Before Jack could answer, two enthusiastic young scientists were already tugging at his belt and the fasteners of his uniform pants. Jack tried to back away, but found himself surrounded on all sides by curious Liriani. "Stop, please," he called out, his face flushing red with embarrassment. The universal translator finally managed to convey his distress, but not before his pants had been pulled down to his knees. He stood in the center of the gathering, shirt gone, pants at his knees, wearing only his standard issue underwear. A hush fell over the crowd as they stared at Jack's exposed body. The differences between his form and theirs were now obvious. His broader shoulders, muscular chest, and overall different physiology. Vila pushed through the crowd, her expression shifting from confusion to understanding as she saw Jack's obvious discomfort. She spoke sharply to the gathered Liriani, who immediately backed away. "I not understand," Lyra said, genuine confusion in her voice. "We study only. The covering's not part of you, yes?" Jack, clutching at his pants to pull them back up, felt a complex mix of emotions: embarrassment, anger, and a sudden sharp awareness of just how alien this culture truly was. "Yes, but they're not for taking off in public," he managed to say. "This is what I meant by privacy." Vila approached cautiously. "We have caused discomfort. This not our intention." She glared at Lyra and her team. "Return his items." The torn shirt was handed back to Jack, who quickly dressed himself as best he could with the damaged clothing. The festive atmosphere had evaporated, replaced by awkward confusion. Jack took a deep breath. This was a cultural misunderstanding, not malice. He was a scientist, here to learn and share knowledge. If he reacted with anger, it could damage the fragile connection between their species. "It's okay," he said finally. "You didn't know. But now you understand what privacy means. To humans." Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, we learn important thing today." She looked genuinely sorry. Not good first contact science method. Despite everything, Jack found himself smiling at her earnest response. "Actually, it's a valuable cultural lesson. For both of us." Vila stepped forward. "Rest now. Tomorrow we provide new coverings for privacy, made for you." As Jack was escorted back to his dwelling, he realized that first contact was always going to be complicated. But at least now the Liriani understood the human concept of clothing. He just hadn't expected the lesson to be quite so hands-on. The next morning, Jack awoke to find a bundle of neatly folded items outside his dwelling. They were garments made from the same woven plant material the Liriani used, but clearly designed to mimic his human clothing. There was a shirt-like top, pants, and even a belt made from braided fibers. A small carved wooden token attached to the bundle bore markings that Jack recognized as Lyra's personal symbol, he tried on the new clothes. They fit surprisingly well and were more comfortable than his damaged uniform in the warm, humid climate of the forest moon. The material breathed better than his synthetic earth fabrics. When he emerged from his dwelling, he found Lyra waiting nearby. Her purple skin bore no decorative patterns today, and her posture suggested nervousness. "Good morning," Jack said. Lyra looked up. "Coverings acceptable?" "Made with privacy understanding." Jack smiled. "They're perfect. Thank you." Relief washed over Lyra's face. "Good. I feel ... bad feeling about yesterday." "Not understand importance. It's okay," Jack assured her. "Cultural differences are why I'm here to learn and share." They walked together toward the central platform where a small group of Liriani waited with Vela. The Azure leader stepped forward when she saw Jack. "Council wishes speak with you," she said through the translator. "Important matters." Jack nodded and followed her to a smaller platform branching off from the main one. Here, 5 elder Liriani sat in a semicircle. Their skin colors ranged from deep blue to jade green, and all bore elaborate markings that seemed to indicate their status. Vela introduced him. "This Jack Miller of Earth. He speaks now to Council." Jack bowed slightly, having noticed this was a gesture of respect among the Liriani. "I'm honored to meet with you." One of the elders, a Liriani with forest green skin and silver hair, spoke. The translator identified her as Mira. "We discuss your presence here," Myra said, some concerned, others curious. "Division exists." Jack listened carefully as Mira explained the situation. The council was split on how to proceed with this first contact. Some, including Vela and Lyra, saw opportunity for cultural and scientific exchange. Others, led by Myra, worried that Jack's presence would disrupt their society. "Your way's different," Myra continued. "Yesterday shows this. Privacy concept new. Gender concept new. Many new things cause confusion. I understand your concerns." Jack replied, "Change and new ideas can be difficult, but they can also bring benefits." Another elder spoke up. "What benefits your people bring to Liriani? Why should we change?" It was a fair question. Jack thought carefully before answering. "Knowledge exchange doesn't mean you must change your ways. It means understanding other possibilities. My people have technologies and sciences that might help yours. And your people have wisdom about living with nature that my people have forgotten." This seemed to satisfy some of the council, but Myra remained skeptical. "Words sound good. Proof needed." Vela intervened. "Perhaps Jack can see Sacred Grove, then understand our greatest concern." The other council members murmured in agreement. Mira looked unhappy, but nodded her consent. After the council meeting, Vela led Jack and Lyra down from the tree settlement to the forest floor. They walked for nearly an hour, deeper into the forest than Jack had ventured before. Eventually, they reached a clearing where several massive trees stood arranged in an almost perfect circle. Jack immediately noticed something wrong. These great trees, while still alive, showed signs of sickness. Their silver leaves were dull, and patches of their purple bark had turned an unhealthy gray. "Our life trees," Vela explained solemnly. "Source of food, medicine, shelter, sacred to Liriani since first days." Lyra stepped closer to one of the affected trees and placed her hand on its bark. "These trees sick, many seasons now. Spread slowly, but certain." Jack approached the nearest tree and examined the discolored bark. His botanical training kicked in as he observed the pattern of the disease. "This looks like a fungal infection," he said. "May I take samples to study?" Vela hesitated. "Sacred trees not for outsider hands." "I understand," Jack said, "but I might be able to help. On Earth, I studied plant diseases and how to treat them." Vela and Lyra exchanged glances. Lyra spoke first. "If sacred trees die, Liriani suffer greatly. No food, no medicine, no homes. Our healers try many seasons, Vela added. No success. Jack could see their dilemma. These trees were central to their survival and culture. If the disease continued to spread, it could devastate their entire society. Let me try, he urged. I'll be respectful. If I can help save your trees, wouldn't that be worth it? After a lengthy discussion, Vela granted permission. Jack carefully collected samples of the diseased bark, healthy bark, and affected leaves. He would need to analyze them back at his ship, where his specialized equipment remained. On their way back to the settlement, they were intercepted by a group of Liriani, led by Myra. The elder's expression was stern. "What happens here?" she demanded. "Taking from sacred trees?" Vela explained Jack's offer to help, but Myra was not appeased. Outsiders should not touch sacred things. Council not approve this. The council gave me authority to decide, Vela countered. Disease spreads. We need new approach. Accepting help from Sky Person shows weakness, Myra argued. Liriani must solve Liriani problems. Jack watched the exchange with concern. He hadn't meant to cause division among the aliens, but clearly his presence had intensified an existing conflict. I only want to help, he said. If I can identify the cause of the disease, your healers might find a solution more quickly. Myra turned to him, her golden eyes narrow. And what do you ask in return? Nothing, Jack said simply. That's not why I'm here. This seemed to confuse Myra. The concept of help without exchange appeared foreign to her. Lyra stepped forward. I work with Jack. Watch all actions. Ensure respect for sacred trees. This compromise seemed to satisfy Myra for the moment, though she clearly remained suspicious. She and her followers departed with a warning. Council will hear of this. Over. The next several days, Jack worked tirelessly in his ship's small laboratory. The equipment had survived the crash intact, allowing him to analyze the samples thoroughly. Lyra assisted, eager to learn about his methods and equipment. What they discovered was concerning. The fungal pathogen was aggressive and spreading through the tree's vascular systems. If left unchecked, it would eventually kill all the life trees in the forest. I think I can create a treatment, Jack told Lyra on the fourth day of their research. But I'll need specific materials, including some compounds from my ship's medical supplies. Lyra's eyes widened. You can save trees? I can try, Jack said cautiously. The treatment should slow the fungus enough for the tree's natural defenses to fight back. But we'll need Vela's approval to apply it to the sacred trees. That evening, as they prepared to present their findings to Vela, a commotion erupted. Outside the ship, Jack and Lyra emerged to find Myra with a large group of followers. Research ends now, Myra announced. Council voted. Outsider not touch sacred trees. Not change Liriani ways. Jack looked at Lyra in dismay. But we've found a way to help. Lyra's expression hardened with determination. Trees will die without treatment. Myra fears change more than death of forest. For the first time since his arrival, Jack saw the peaceful Liriani divided by conflict, and he was at the center of it. The fate of their entire ecosystem hung in the balance, and time was running out. Tension filled the air as Jack and Lyra faced Myra and her followers outside the ship. The normally peaceful Liriani were divided, their musical voices raised in disagreement. The trees will die without help, Lyra insisted, standing her ground beside Jack. The disease spreads faster each day cycle. Myra stepped forward, her green skin darkening with emotion. Liriani survived many challenges before Sky People came. We will find our own cure. Vela arrived, pushing through the crowd with several council members behind her. Enough, she commanded. This division weakens us. Jack watched the conflict with growing concern. His rescue ship wouldn't arrive for another 2 months. By then, The fungus could spread beyond control. He had to do something. "May I speak?" he asked. All eyes turned to him. Even Myra fell silent. "I understand your concerns," Jack said, addressing Mira directly. "You want to protect your people. And your ways. That's admirable." He gestured to the forest around them. "But these trees are dying. I've seen similar diseases on Earth. Without treatment, they will all be lost. Why should we trust you?" Myra challenged. Jack thought carefully. Before answering, "Because I'm alone here. My survival depends on your goodwill. And because I'm a botanist, someone who loves and studies plants, seeing these magnificent trees die would break my heart." His sincerity seemed to reach some of Myra's followers, who exchanged uncertain glances. "I propose a compromise," Jack continued. "Let me treat just one tree, the one showing the least damage. Lyra and your healers can observe everything I do. If it works, we can treat the others. If not, I'll stop." The council members conferred among themselves. Finally, Vila spoke. "This seems fair. One tree only for now." Mira clearly wasn't happy, but with the council's support behind Vela, she had little choice. "One tree," she agreed reluctantly. "But if damage increases, you leave Sacred Grove." "Forever," Jack nodded. "Agreed." The next morning, Jack prepared the treatment with Lyra's help. They mixed compounds from his medical supplies with local plant extracts that had natural antifungal properties. The result was a thick paste that would be applied to the affected areas of the chosen tree. A procession formed as they made their way to the sacred grove. Jack carried the treatment in a container made from a hollowed gourd. Lyra walked beside him, while Vela led the way. Behind them came several council members, Liriani healers, and many curious onlookers. Mira and her followers brought up the rear, watching with suspicious eyes dotted the grove. They gathered around the selected tree. It showed early signs of the disease, but was still mostly healthy. Jack explained each step as he worked, allowing the translator to convey his words to the assembled Liriani. "First, we clean the affected area," he said, gently removing loose bark. "Then we apply the treatment directly to the infection site." His hands moved with care and precision. Years of botanical fieldwork had given him a gentle touch that seemed to impress even the skeptical healers. As he worked, he continued explaining the science behind the treatment. "The compounds in this paste will slow the fungus growth, giving the tree's natural defenses time to fight back. The tree knows how to heal itself, it just needs our help." It took hours to apply the treatment to all the affected areas. The Liriani watched in silence, many seeming to hold their breath. When Jack finally stepped back, the tree glistened with the applied paste. "Now we wait," he said simply. Days passed. Jack checked the tree each morning and evening, taking careful measurements and samples. Lyra rarely left his side, eager to learn his methods. Some of the Liriani healers joined them, asking questions through the translator. On the 5th day, Jack made an exciting discovery. "The fungus has stopped spreading," he announced. "And here, see these new cells? The tree is fighting back." The news spread quickly through the settlement. More Liriani came to observe the recovering tree. Even some of Myra's followers began to show interest in Jack's work. By the 10th day, the results were undeniable. The treated tree showed clear signs of recovery, with fresh, healthy bark growing over the previously infected areas. The silver leaves were regaining their luster. Vila called a council meeting to discuss treating the remaining trees. This time, when Jack presented his findings, even Mira listened attentively. "The treatment works," Jack explained, "but we must act quickly to save the other trees." After much discussion, the council approved treating all the affected trees. The next few weeks were busy as Jack trained teams of Liriani healers in creating and applying the treatment. He worked alongside them, sharing his knowledge freely. Gradually, Mira's opposition softened. One evening, she approached Jack because he was recording his observations. "Your help saves sacred trees," she acknowledged. "Perhaps sky people and Liriani can learn from each other?" Jack smiled. "That's why I became a scientist, to learn and share knowledge." As the forest began to heal, life in the Liriani settlement returned to normal. Jack continued his botanical studies, now with the full cooperation of the Liriani. Lyra proved to be an eager student and excellent research partner. Together, they documented hundreds of plant species unique to the moon. The day Jack's translator announced approaching spacecraft detected came almost too soon. After nearly 3 months with the Liriani, he had grown fond of their world and their ways. The rescue ship landed in the same clearing where the Starseeker had crashed. Captain Sam Kelly and her crew were astonished to find Jack not only alive, but living comfortably among an alien civilization. "You've made first contact with an intelligent species," Captain Kelly said in amazement. "United Earth Space Agency will want a full report." Jack introduced Vila and the council members to the human crew. "These are my people," he explained. "To the Liriani, they've come to take me home." The news was met with mixed reactions. Many Liriani seemed sad to see him go. Lyra especially appeared distressed. "You leave now?" she asked when they were alone. "Much more to learn together." Jack had been thinking about this moment for days. "Actually, I have a proposal for the council. I'd like to establish a permanent research station here. We could continue our work and create a formal alliance between humans and Liriani." Lyra's eyes brightened. "You would stay?" "I would visit often," Jack said. "And other human scientists could come to learn from your people, with your permission." The proposal was presented to both the Liriani Council and Captain Kelly's crew. After much discussion, an agreement was reached. The humans would establish a small research outpost, respecting Liriani customs and sovereignty. In exchange, the Liriani would share their knowledge of the moon's ecosystem. On his last day, before departing with the rescue ship, Jack stood in the sacred grove, now flourishing, with health. Vela, Lyra, and even Mira had come to say goodbye. "Your people welcome back," Vela said formally. "Friends of Liriani now." Lyra handed Jack a small token carved from sacred tree wood. "Remember us," she said simply. Jack accepted the gift with a bow. "I will return," he promised Dot as the rescue ship lifted off. Jack watched the Liriani settlement recede below him. He thought about his first days on this world, the cultural misunderstandings, and the moment when curious alien hands had torn off his clothes in their eagerness to understand. That awkward incident had led to something remarkable. The first peaceful alliance between humans and an alien civilization. Sometimes, Jack reflected, the greatest discoveries came from the most unexpected beginnings, and he still had the Liriani-made clothes, a reminder of how two very different peoples could learn to understand and respect each other, one small cultural step at a time.